Hello, everybody, and welcome into this special here with Prep Redzone Oklahoma. I'm Michael Knight, the director of Prep Redzone Oklahoma, regional scouting director for the Prep Network, and we're going to give you 5 players to watch in Oklahoma as we head into week 0. Obviously, for some schools, they'll be opening up the season this week. For others, they're doing their second scrimmage on Friday. So for this week, we're just looking at teams and players individually that are going to be playing regular season games. There's plenty of players to watch in scrimmages this week, but for this week, we're just going to look at the teams that are actually opening up their 2020 regular seasons. And we're going to start with our players to watch with a big-time running back, junior in Bixby running back Braylin Presley. Big-time matchup for the Spartans as they take on Union in a game that wasn't supposed to happen. Bixby and Union were originally scheduled to play 2 teams out of Mansfield, Texas, and back during the summer, the UIL, which basically is the OSSA for Texas, they announced that for the larger school districts in Texas, they were going to delay the start of the football season, which essentially canceled the games for Union and Bixby. Because they were both scheduled to play Mansfield schools, all of a sudden they needed new opponents. They looked at each other and said, hey, let's play and strap it up and open the season against one another. So Union will travel to Bixby. And for Bixby, a big opportunity to say, look, it doesn't matter who we have to replace. We have firepower, and it starts with the running back, Braylin Presley. And if you're a fan of Oklahoma high school football, you might be wondering, how does Bixby have another Presley? That's a good question. Obviously, Brennan Presley was a fantastic player for the Spartans the last few seasons, was a Player of the Year finalist, Player of the Year runner-up for us last season, and was without a doubt an absolute playmaker on both sides of the ball. His little brother Braylin had a great sophomore season as well last year. Now he's a junior, and in that backfield with senior quarterback Mason Williams, they have one of the best 1-2 punches in the state of Oklahoma. Now the question mark we have with Bixby is how that offensive line will mold together. They have a lot of new faces along that offensive line. They have some new skill players as well at the wide receiver position. So more pressure will be on Braylin and Mason in that backfield because of the experience that they have. How will they react to the pressure? How will they be able to manage throughout this the early part of the season, which is brutal for Bixby when you look at the non-district teams that they're playing. They open with Union. They also play Jinx. They also play Stillwater here in the early going. So we're going to, not to mention what the district looks like with Booker T, Muskogee, Choctaw, all loaded going into 2020. So Bixby has one of the toughest schedules in Oklahoma, regardless of class. Braylin Presley, a phenomenal athlete. Speed is the name of the game. Look, he's not the biggest running back. It's not any hidden secret. Brennan Presley was not the biggest playmaker either, but he made it work. And look, the key for the Presley name, obviously, is speed. And when it comes to that, Braylin Presley might be one of the quickest players in the state of Oklahoma, regardless of class. He gets in and out of his breaks, cuts on a dime, and can absolutely switch positions better than just about everybody in the state of Oklahoma. So it's going to be so interesting to see how teams defend Presley, and especially in the early going where they test that that young and inexperienced offensive line for Bixby. Braylin Presley certainly has an opportunity to shine in the early going, but he's going to be one of the players to watch not only this week, but every single week in the state of Oklahoma. We're going to stay at the running back position and go to another top 10 matchup as Beggs will host Lincoln Christian. And we go to Beggs as they have state championship aspirations, and one of their top players is C.J. Brown, another junior, another prospect in this Oklahoma 2022 class that is absolutely stacked and has some really good players, especially in the top 10, top 15. When you look at those rankings, C.J. Brown, certainly a top 10 prospect, is being recruited by schools all over the country already. Offensively, yeah, he's a fantastic running back. I mean, this kid has all the tools you want in a running back, a complete package. He has speed, he has size, and when it comes to the teams that he's been playing against, he makes it look easy. And I know it's not easy. going out there and breaking, 3-4 tackles at a time. But C.J. Brown makes it look easy. He explodes through the hole. He has that extra gear that most other teams just simply don't have anybody who has that gear that can catch up with him. Brown hardly ever gets caught from behind. And then when you look at him as a defensive prospect, because he is also getting recruited as that as well, he's a fantastic playmaker just alongside his teammate Kendall Daniels, who's obviously one of the top prospects in the 2021 class committed to Texas A&M. C.J. Brown right there with him in his playmaking ability. So I'm looking forward to seeing how C.J. develops. There's a lot of hype around this Beggs team. There's a lot of hype around C.J. Brown. And so how does he make that jump from sophomore to junior season? I'm looking forward to seeing what he's able to do this year, and more particularly this week, because this is a good matchup for Beggs. As Lincoln Christian, they have some holes to fill. This isn't the same Lincoln Christian that went, ran the table and went undefeated, winning a state championship last year. They have some holes that they have to fill, and they're going to be going through some learning curves here early on. So this is a good statement opportunity for Beggs, and more importantly for C.J. Brown, to get things going and get things off to the right start for Beggs as they try to pursue a Class 2A state championship. Another player to watch is another one in our top 10 matchups. We go to Bishop Kelley for Owen Heidecke, as Bishop Kelley will play host to Poteau in one of the top games of the week this week in week 0. Owen had a breakout season last year as a junior, and we've written many times already about Bishop Kelley in the offseason about how they were snake bit last year, and they were basically, especially by me, left for dead back in September of last season. When you looked at all the guys that they lost to injury, whether it was Zach Middleton, Corey Lewis, Montrell Cozart, 3 huge names for Bishop Kelley, all of them had season-ending injuries, and you're wondering, how will Bishop Kelley bounce back? How will they scratch and claw just to make it into the playoffs? Not only do they make it to the playoffs, they make it all the way to the 5A semifinals and push rival McGinnis for a spot in the state championship game. And when it comes to how they were able to make it happen, a big reason was the emergence of Owen Heidecke. Whether it's offense or defense, this kid is an absolute stud. He reminds us a lot of Zach Middleton, who had his season ended last year before it even started. He's now in Stillwater with Oklahoma State, became one of the top recruits in Oklahoma, and Heidecke has the chance to do that. He's a little bigger, a little taller than Zach was, but he has the opportunity to make an impact on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Me personally, I like Owen when he's on the defensive side of the ball at linebacker. The kid is an absolute headhunter. He loves to hit. He has a motor that just won't quit. But at the running back position, all those things, you now put the ball in his hands, and he is an absolute wrecking ball. He's extremely physical. His speed is underrated as well. So if he gets into the open field, he's going to be able to make some things happen. He was a breakout star for Bishop Kelley last season. Now going into his senior year, going into 2020 against a Poteau team that loves to play defense, I especially want to see what Heidecke is able to do with now more pressure being put on him to perform and outdo what he did last season. How will he fare against a Poteau team that, like I mentioned, loves defense and can absolutely shut some of the best players in Oklahoma down? They've been able to do that over the last several years. And when it comes to Poteau, their first thing that they focus on is shutting teams down, playing good defense. How will Owen Heidecke be able to get some big-time production? That's going to be a huge key in that matchup as Bishop Kelley hosts Poteau in a top 10 clash between 4A and 5A in Tulsa. Our next player to watch, we go to Edmond Santa Fe. It's our game of the week as Edmond Santa Fe travels to Owasso to take on the defending champion Rams. And for Santa Fe, they're going to need a lot of production out of this guy, Talyn Shettron. And he had a phenomenal sophomore season. He was already expected to have a phenomenal sophomore season as he really broke out as a freshman and started becoming one of the top recruits in Oklahoma's 2022 class. Now going into his junior season, he is known statewide as one of the best wide receivers, might be the best wide receiver in the state of Oklahoma right now. And one of the things that stick out to me with Talyn, and I'll never forget it, mainly because I was there on the sideline. Obviously, Santa Fe had 2 huge wins last year on their way to a district championship. One was on the road against Broken Arrow. The second one was on the road against Jinx. I was there for that second one as Shettron just absolutely shredded the Jinx secondary and the Jinx defense. He caught 3 touchdowns. I think he had over 200 yards receiving. If not, he was flirting with that number by the end of the game, as he had a phenomenal performance against one of the best teams, that team in Jinx that ended up making it to the state championship game. So now going into this matchup against Owasso, the Rams are going to look a little different defensively, especially in the secondary. They have some guys that they have to replace. Deuce Mayberry, one of the top corners in Oklahoma last year, he's graduated. So who do they put on Talyn at the cornerback spot? They're also going to have a new field because they have a new defensive coordinator. Bobby Klink is now the head coach at Sand Springs after being the D coordinator for 2 championships in the last 3 years for Owasso. So who guards Talyn Shettron? Who tries to lock him up? What does Owasso do to try to limit him? And can Talyn overcome that? Can he show what he showed last year against Jinx and say, it doesn't matter where we are, it doesn't matter who we're playing, Santa Fe is the real deal? And obviously they have a lot of high expectations going into this season after the year they had last year. For Talyn, it's going to be all eyes on him every single week. He's going to get everybody's best shot. He's going to get double teamed. He's going to get even sometimes maybe triple teamed, or at least double teamed with a little zone cover as well, with a little rover, making sure that they're following and making sure they know where Talyn Shettron is at all times. And the reason for that is, if left alone, this kid is going to make you pay. And if it's one-on-one situations, he's going to win more times than he's not. So it's our game of the week. We can't wait to see what happens when these two teams square off. Is Santa Fe for real? Is Owasso going to reload for another championship run? We're going to have some answers to those questions after Friday night. We're going to be right there on the sideline shooting all the highlights and having that for you on Friday night right here on Prep Red Zone, Oklahoma. And then our final player to watch, we stay in our top 10 games with another fantastic matchup. It's Muskogee taking on Bishop McGuinness. And for us, we want to see Ty Williams. We talked to Ty for Muskogee during the offseason, as he's committed to Oklahoma State. He's emerged as one of the top senior prospects in this Oklahoma 2021 class. But for us, we want to see what he does on the defensive side of the ball. That's what he's being recruited as. He also plays quarterback for the Roughers, and he's an absolute playmaker. He can throw it all over the field. He can make plays with his legs as well. He has a great running back in the backfield with him in Isaiah Givens. But what we want to see from Ty Williams is what he's able to do on the defensive side of the ball, because he's been outstanding the last 2 seasons. He's had a combined 17 interceptions in the last 2 years, his sophomore and junior season, 17 interceptions in those 2 seasons. And we asked Ty, what can we expect from you this year as a senior? And he said he wants to hit those numbers. He wants to hit that number in 1 season, 17 interceptions. So Bishop McGuinness, they're going to have their work cut out for them in a tough season opener against a Muskogee team that has arguably their most talent since they made a run to the semifinals a few seasons ago with Cameron Curl, among many other standouts for the Roughers. This team might even be better than that team. This is a strong championship contender in 6A too. So Bishop McGuinness, they have their work cut out for them. They have some names that they have to replace. No more Dominic Richardson in the backfield for Bishop McGuinness. More pressure going to be put on the Irish to perform offensively. Luke Tarman, their quarterback, we're going to be interested to see what he's able to do. And if he's throwing it, he has to know where Ty Williams is at all times, because if he doesn't, if he loses track of Williams, he's going to get burnt, and Williams is going to be well on his way to trying to reach 17 interceptions. And if he's able to get that, look, he's going to be in the short conversation for player of the year if he's able to come down with 17 interceptions. And a good news for Muskogee, if he hits those numbers or even gets close, you have to play a lot of games. You're not going to be able to rattle off, 3 interceptions per game. So if Muskogee is able to make a run at the championship to the semifinals, playing 12, 13 games, he's going to have every opportunity to reach that number this season. So right out of the gate, we want to see Ty Williams and what he's able to do in a tough road game, as they do have to go on the road to Oklahoma City to take on a McGinnis team that is just as hungry as ever in Class 5A. We have them ranked number 10 in our 5A rankings, and a lot of people think that's extremely low. But at the same time, we want to see what Bishop McGinnis does to replace some of those key pieces off of last year's team that made it all the way to the state championship game. All right, those are 5 players to watch. We're going to do this every single week, so be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to check us out every single week as we give you 5 players to watch right here with Prep Red Zone Oklahoma. Also, be sure to check out our weekend content. Once the games are done, it doesn't stop on our website, as we will continue to pump out content every single day. During the football season, you'll have something new on the website every single day that you can check out. That's what we can guarantee you here with Prep Red Zone Oklahoma. We're going to be covering high school football like nobody else. And so coming up this weekend, we'll have our podcast, our first episode of the Prep Red Zone Oklahoma Roundup, where we will take a look back at week 0. We'll have all the top stories from the games that happened on Friday. We'll have interviews with coaches, maybe a couple players as well. Also coming up this weekend, you can check out our new top 10 rankings in each class from 6A1 all the way down to Class C. And we'll also have our player of the week candidates. So out of these 5 players, Braylin, Presley, CJ Brown, Owen, Heidecke, Talyn, Shettron, Ty Williams, how many of these guys will be player of the week candidates? How many of these guys will shine on Friday night? We'll have that on Sunday to show you who some of the top performances all across the state of Oklahoma were. So be sure to stay tuned in for that, and then join us right back here next week. We'll have plenty of video content throughout the week and throughout the weekend. But join us right back here, as we'll give you 5 more players to watch going into the next week of games. I'm Michael Knight, one final time, the director of Prep Red Zone Oklahoma, and this has been 5 Players to Watch.